So when you come to your seat, easy seat, just bring your attention to your feet. And instead of letting your feet just relax and sort of what we call sickle, so they sort of turn in, brighten your feet. So pull your toes back towards your shins. Just give some brightness to your feet, and then see if that helps give you a little lift in your spine. And then either closing your eyes down or softening your gaze downward. Just begin to drop into the ocean of your being. See if you can move your awareness from external stimulation or external sensibilities to internal sensibilities. And just do a scan from tip to tail, tail to tip, to head to tail. Just do a scan and bring your awareness to any sharp edges you might have this morning or this evening. And see if you can soften around those edges just slightly. And then from here, just take your right hand and touch the earth. So I referenced the Buddha. When the Buddha sat and was being challenged by the demons, at one point in this sort of despair, it is said that he just touched his hand to the ground, a reminder of matter, of being embodied, of being part of the earth. And the earth said, I witness you. And then you can just slowly lift your gaze or flutter your eyelids open. And we'll come to our backs on our mats. If you have your yoga blanket and you'd like to rest your head on it, you could do that. And just coming down onto your back. We are going to work with feet today. And feet, of course, are the foundation of our body temple. So with your feet on the floor, position of comfort, you could rest your arms just alongside your body. Just begin that windshield wiper action that we do quite a lot. You might widen the stance of your feet. And as you do, go from side to side, keep that brightness in your feet. So draw your toes back towards your shins. And as you move your knees side to side, the edges of your feet will stay planted on the floor. So there's this real connection through the feet, even in this warm-up action. Yep. So the feet, being the foundation of our body temple, really provide the structure all the way through our lower legs, upper legs, hips, the low back, all the way through the spine, all the way up into the crown of the head. But unlike a building, our feet need to be not just steady or secure, but they need to be mobile and adaptable, right? So often our feet get really immobile because we spend so much time in constricting them in shoes. Come back to center now, and then just bring your right knee into towards your chest. You can take your left leg a little bit longer or to the floor, and then just reach through your right leg, reach your toes long, so you're extending everything, and then flex everything in, and then reach everything long. So you're sort of making a big circle with your foot. You'll flex at the hip, knee, and ankle, and then extend. Same leg. If it's too much on your low back when you do this, you could bend the opposite leg and set that foot on the floor, and then just begin the other side. Just warming up through the whole leg structure, hip to ankle. So if you think about the wheels on your car, if your wheels are balanced and true, then the car runs smoothly. But if you have a low tire, and then you can bring your feet back to the floor and just let your feet open up into your legs open up into Baddha Konasana, and take the soles of your feet together and press into one foot into the other. Yeah, just Baddha Konasana. If you needed to grab your blocks here and rest got a little hamstring cramp right there, you could rest your knees on blocks to the side, okay? So if you have a flat tire or a low tire, then the car pulls to one side, or you wear the tires unevenly, right? So we're all familiar with that. Great. Now bring your knees into your chest and pull your toes back towards your shins. And then straighten through the legs. So your feet are reaching up towards the ceiling. Great. Now, the ankles are flexed and the toes are flexed. Okay, so you're pulling your ankles back towards your shins and your toes back towards your ankles. Now extend through the ankles, but keep the toes flexed. And then finally extend the toes. Flex back through your ankles. Now, if this is too much on your back, you could come up to Dandasana with your hips on a blanket, or if you chose to do it that way, it's fine. And I'm just doing it on my back. So either way is fine. So I flex through the ankles and I flex through the toes. So the toes are pulling back towards the tops of my feet as much as possible, ankles flexed. And then I'm going to extend through my ankles, but keep the toes flexed. And then finally extend the toes. Try that a couple more times. And I'm going to sit up and just do the same thing in Dandasana. Get an angle here so I can show you. So flexing through the ankles, toes pulled back. And then I extend the ankles, but keep the toes flexed. And then at the very end, extend the toes. Come back, flexing at the ankles. Toes pulled back, toes are in flexion as well. Then extend through the ankles, keep the toes flexed, and then extend through the toes. Great. Now, whether you're on your back or you're sitting, everything's extended right now. Take one foot and bring the toes back into flexion, and then the ankle into flexion. And then the other foot is in extension. And then start to bring the other foot back, toes into flexion, ankle into flexion as you extend through opposite ankle and extend toes. Okay, so start with it pretty slowly so you're moving back and forth like you're stepping on the gas pedal, stepping on the brake pedal. Okay, so as you bring the foot that's in extension, as you bring the toes back in flexion, ankle into flexion, extend through the ankle of the other foot, extend through the toes of the other foot. Try it a couple times. Notice what you're doing with your hands as you do that. Good. And then just rest. If you're on your back, roll to one side. And if you're sitting, come on up. We'll take a tennis ball and come to standing. And just with your tennis ball, it's be a little challenging with my viewing today. So just with your tennis ball underneath your foot, just roll your foot back and forth, side to side, round in a circle on the tennis ball. Just breaking up any adhesions, tightness in your foot. If you need to rest your hand against a wall, that's fine too. Then take it to the other foot. Maybe one foot feels a little more coordinated than the other foot. Great. And then go back to the first foot. And now take the tennis ball right underneath your toes and try to grab the tennis ball with your toes. Try to grab it like you could put your whole hand around the tennis ball. Put your toes around the tennis ball. Try that on the other foot. Just almost like you're grabbing the tennis ball. Good. And then you can kick the tennis ball away, come to Samastahi, even standing. Try not to look at your feet at the beginning. Just stand in Tadasana or even standing. And then now before you look at your feet, can you get a sense of whether your feet are parallel to one another, in the same plane, or if one foot might be forward of the other? And in a sense, if you were on a mat, somewhat parallel to the edge of your mat. Balanced front to back and side to side. And then look down at your feet. You might be surprised one foot is a little forward of the other foot. All right. Okay. Feel the weight in the middle of your heel. The middle of your heel. And then come a little bit forward and feel the weight under the big toe, pinky toe. So the big toe mound, the pinky toe mound, feel the weight there, even. And then just slightly moving back and forth, feel the weight all three places. So you might even pick up your heel slightly and then set them down right in the center. Pick up your heels slightly, set them down right in the center, and then rock back to your heels, pick up your toes, pick up all 10 toes, and then press into big toe mound, press into pinky toe mound, and then elongate your toes. Stretch them out. All right, now in this position, you should feel that triangular connection to the earth. Just take a couple of breaths and feel this. Okay. Okay, now look down again at your feet and look at your arches. Can you draw your inner arch up without changing anything in the feet? Just draw the inner arch up. You will probably feel this in the outer muscle of the lower leg, the tibialis anterior. Feel that. keep that lift there in the lower leg or in the arch. Feel that. You might feel that it might continue to come all the way up. You should feel it in the outer leg, and then you might even feel it up in your inner leg and into your pelvic floor. Great. All right. Let's come back to the mat now, or come back. We're going to come to sitting on our heels. So you're going to tuck your toes under. Now, here's where you could use a strap if you had one or wanted to experience this with the strap. So a little bit tricky to get on, but I'm going to take the strap. I'm going to turn and have my back to you and take the strap. I'm going to strap my ankles. I'm going to make it really tight. So there's some work in and of itself so that I can't pull my ankles apart. Then I'm going to try to get all 10 toes under, and then I'm going to sit on my heels. So what I don't want to happen is for my heels to splay out to the side. So with or without the strap, you can try it without the strap if you don't have a strap, but just really pull your ankles together. And now I'm just going to turn to the side. So here we go. We're sitting on our heels. And if you can sit upright, pretty upright, great. If it's really challenging for you to sit upright, you can put a block in between your heels and your booty. So now we're stretching the bottoms of the feet, the soles of the feet, and the soles of the feet are the beginning of the back body. So oftentimes, we think when we're in forward bends, when we're unable to maybe go as far as other people or as we'd like, we think it's all in our back. Well, our back body starts in the soles of our feet. So it could be in your back, but it also could be in your feet. All right, so stick with this just a couple more breaths. Breathing into really your whole being. And most of us, have a little bit of trouble getting the pinky toe turned under. So maybe if you could feel like you got that pinky toe turned under, that's great. And then come forward onto your hands, and you can just take your feet in the opposite direction and just sort of, if you've got the mermaid tail, you'll have to do it kind of both feet at the same time, or you could alternate feet. Whew. Good. Now, with the tops of the feet onto the floor, and again, if you have the strap, and you can really tighten the strap up so that your ankles do not separate, come back to sitting onto your heels. So now we're stretching the tops of the feet. And if this is really uncomfortable in the tops of your feet, you could have a blanket underneath your feet. And not only will you feel this stretch in the tops of your feet, but you'll probably feel it in that same muscle that I referred to, the tibialis anterior. So sitting here in Virasana. So in the Yoga Sutras, the word, the notion or the directive to practice with both effort and ease, that word for ease, sukha, this actually referred to the hub of the chariot wheel. And if the wheel was true and centered, it would roll smoothly with ease. Okay, so interesting metaphor. And like our feet really just show us all of our irregularities up through our body if our feet are not balanced and adaptable and flexible. Great. All right, so now let's come forward and we can take the strap off, removing Strapasana. Okay, and then from here, let's come to tabletop. I would set up 2 blocks at the front of your mat first, just for downward facing dog. But coming into table now, you could take a couple cat-cows. And then turn your toes under. There's that same movement pattern. Turn your toes under. And I'm going to show this with the blocks. I'm going to come up to downward dog with the 2 blocks so that I can shorten my stance a little bit and get my heels to the floor. Okay. And you might, have your blocks in a little shorter. So idea being we can get our heels to the floor. If you have to bend the legs a little bit, that's fine too. Good. So in this downward facing dog, lift all 10 toes off the floor. Notice when you do that, if you pitch to the outside of your feet towards the pinky side, that's pretty common. See if you can lift all 10 toes and keep your feet evenly weighted without pitching to one direction or the other. Now just take your big toe back down to the floor. And now just add your second toe, your index toe, whatever the second toe is called. Oh my gosh, that feels really hard. And maybe all of the other toes went down. So close your eyes here and imagine you take your second toe down, third toe down, fourth toe down, pinky toe down. So we can intend it, right? It might not happen right away, but we can lay down some new neural pathways. So pick all 10 toes up again. Keep your eyes closed. Notice if you've pitched to one side or the other with your feet, and see if you can even out your stance. Lift the arches. Now set your big toe down. Second toe. Third toe. Fourth toe. Pinky toe. All 10 toes down. Great. And from here, walk forward. And then hands to hips, come up to standing. Great. I'm going to stay in your view like this with my feet as close to the camera as possible. So come back to Stamastihi or Tadasana, and then keeping your feet really still and your hips really still. You can take your hands to your hips. Move your ankles, just your ankles from side to side. So move them to the right, move them to the left. Just your ankles, try not to let the hips move. You might look at your feet, but it might be easier to not look at your feet. Just your ankles side to side. Pretty tricky. Yeah, good. Okay, now from here, I'll back up a little bit. So now what you're going to do is take one block. All right, I'm going to set my block here. I'm going to take my one foot, doesn't matter, just start with one foot, towards the inside of that block. And I'm going to stand up and bring the other foot right beside it as if I'm standing on 2 blocks. Now you'll notice that the foot on the block is doing what we just did standing on the floor. Ankle is moving back and forth, trying to balance. Good. Inhale the free leg. externally rotate and come into Vrksasana tree. And if you feel that your ankle, the standing leg, moving back and forth, trying to find the balance point, that's great. That's what it's supposed to do. Good. And release. Step down, shake out the hips. Let's try the other side. So bring your foot to the block, sort of towards the inside. Step up, find your balance, and then hover the other foot as if you are standing on a block, but you're not. Feel your ankle moving in an attempt to find that balance. Inhale. Externally rotate. Place your foot in Vrksasana. Maybe this side has a little bit more coordination, adaptability. All right, then you can step off, shake that out. Good. And let's come back to the mat. Let's come back to table. Right. You could set your blocks aside. We're going to flow a little bit. So beginning in table, just taking a few rounds of cat-cow. And then turn the toes under and press your hips up and back, downward facing dog. So check out your feet, in the position of your feet. We did this on our back or in Dandasana if you chose to be in Dandasana. And on your next inhale, walk your feet. Really feel your feet against the floor. Walk all the way up to your hands. Halfway lift. Exhale, fold. As you press your feet into the floor, lift your inner arches, sweep your hands up. And then come right back down to a fold. Hands to the floor, step your left foot back, placing your foot down with intention into the lunge. So toes are in flexion. You stack your heel over your toes. And then right foot back to the left foot, downward facing dog. Inhale, come forward, high Dandasana. Lower the knees and exhale, knees, chest, chin. Inhale, baby cobra. Exhale, turn the toes under, come through table or straight back into downward facing dog. Bring the left foot forward between your hands. You're up on the back toes, right foot, stacking heel over toes. Inhale, step forward into a forward fold. Halfway lift. Fold again. Look at your feet. Press evenly through that triangle, but lift your inner arch as you press your feet into the floor and sweep your arms up. Exhale, right back down to a fold. Step the right foot back. Lunge. Back toes are turned in flexion. Feet are bright. Step your left foot back to your right, downward facing dog. Inhale, high Dandasana. And you can exhale through Chaturanga or drop your knees to the floor. Knees, chest, chin, all the way down. And then a cobra, baby cobra. And then back to downward facing dog. Lift your heels in downward dog. So you're almost up onto the points, the tippy part of the tippy toe of your toes. And then reach your heels down towards the floor. Might not make it. That's okay. On your next inhale, walk your feet up to your hands. Halfway lift. And exhale, fold. As you press your feet into the floor, lift your inner arches and sweep your arms up. Exhale, right back down, forward fold. Hands to the floor, step your right foot back, and really intentionally set your foot down. Toes are flexed, heel reaches. Now, even though the heel is stacked over the toes, reach through your heel so you keep your back leg bright. Good. And then left foot to right foot, downward facing dog. Inhale, come forward, high Dandasana. And exhale, lower to the floor, your choice. Inhale into Cobra. Tops of the feet are to the floor here. And then turn the toes under and press up and back, downward facing dog. Step the right foot forward between your hands, lunge on the other side. Good. And then step forward, halfway lift, and exhale, fold. Press your feet into the floor and lift your inner arches as you sweep your arms up. And then come to resting in Tadasana, hands to your sides. Feel the evenness of your stance, the engagement in your feet, lift in your arch. Great. Okay. So now we'll set up, if you have a little bit of wall space you can use, that will be helpful. It doesn't have to be a continuous wall. It could even just be a door jamb. And you'll need one block. And mat or no mat. And take my mat over to this cupboard here that I've got. Okay. So you could do this without the wall. The wall is just going to be helpful to give us some feedback about our hips. So here, take a wide stance. And I'm going to bring in my case here, I'm going to bring my left foot to face forward. And I'm going to pick up my back heel and just turn it out slightly. All right. And then I'm going to bend through the front leg. And I'm going to set myself up so that my front hip, my front buttocks leans against the wall. The back leg turns in. You really want to really feel your whole back foot on the floor. So sometimes we lift off the back heel, right, and turn to the inside. See if you can have that same foot pattern, heel, big toe mound, pinky toe mound, all pressing into the floor. So we're in the warrior two stance here. Now, as I said, this hip, back leg hip, that should not be into the wall. It's moving in internal rotation. But if you stretched your arms out, it's possible to have your upper body touching the wall or your door jamb or your sense of the wall. Good. All right. And then from this warrior two, we're going to tilt forward and come into Ardha Chandrasana. And the back leg, when we lift in the back leg up, we're going to keep that foot really bright, really turned on. So as I reach forward with my block and I lift the back leg, I brighten up that foot. Now there's a little space between your top buttocks does not touch the wall. Look down at your front foot. Hopefully it is pointing straight ahead. And then you could stack your arms if that felt good. But keep that top foot bright. So you're pulling your toes back towards your shins and you're spreading through your toes in this Ardha Chandrasana. And then to come out, we'll bend through the front leg and step back into the warrior two. And then we'll turn both feet to parallel. You could let your booty rest against the wall as you come forward, and then make sure your booty's not against the wall. So you're stacked evenly over the feet. And here you could just come into a simple fold like I've got going on. You could come a little bit deeper if that felt like what you'd like here. Oh, stretching through your hamstrings, head to a block, forehead to a block if you wanted. But feel the position, feel the whole foot, and notice your feet. If you're in a deep fold, can you look over at your feet? Are you collapsed to your inner arches? Can you lift, keep lifting the inner arches? Great. Then we'll work our way back up. Turn the opposite foot forward. You might have to adjust your stance with your wall or limited wall space. So right foot forward, and then you're gonna snug into the wall so that the front hip is touching the wall. Back hip is not. Turn that back foot in, heel out, toes in. And the internal rotation of that back leg means that your back booty is not touching the wall. Reaching the arms out, maybe coming a little deeper into that front leg. Can you open up in your upper body so that both shoulders are in contact with the wall? So the hips are offset a little bit, but the shoulders, maybe we can get them both touching. Good, and then we'll go into Ardha Chandrasana here. So as you bring hike yourself forward, block and front hand go to the floor. Lift that back leg and brighten the back foot. So again, the standing leg, that hip is into the wall, and the top leg, you've got a little bit of space between your booty and the wall. Brighten that foot. Pull your toes back towards your shins. Stretch up through your top arm. Keep lifting the arch in the standing leg. And then we bend through the front leg and sort of rock ourselves back up. Turn both feet to be parallel. You could start with your booty into the wall, but as you fold forward, your booty comes away from the wall. So you're not touching the wall with your buttocks, with your hips, and then you can fold. Lift your arches. Now, in this forward fold, can you lift all 10 toes? Set the big toe down, big toes down, and the rest of the toes down. Okay, from here, let's heel toe our feet so that they're about hip distance or a little bit further apart. Bring your hands to your knees and press yourself up. Good. All right, now from here, we're going to set up our mat next to this, next to our available wall space. Okay, so again, it could be like I've got a little cupboard that I'm using for my feet. It can just be a door jamb even. Okay, but I'm going to come down and set my feet against the wall. Right? All right. And then from here, I'm going to lift my heels off away from the wall, but keep the ball of my foot, big toe mound, pinky toe mound, touching. And then I'm going to lift the ball of the foot off so that just my toe tips are touching. And then set the ball of the foot back down, and then set the heel back down. Lift the heel, lift big toe mound, pinky toe mound. So just my toe tips are touching, and then toes, big toe mound, pinky toe mound, and then heels. Now notice if you're trying to borrow from, I feel myself trying to borrow from my low back. See if you can just make this happen in the feet. So I lift the heels, and I've got big toe mound, pinky toe mound, and toes all touching. Then I lift the mounds of my feet, toe tips are only touching the wall. And then back down the same way you came in. Okay, we're going to add something, okay? So now lift the heels, then just toe tips touching, and then sort of spring away from the wall, and then toe tips, ball of the foot, heel. Lift the heel, lift the ball of the foot, toe tips touching, spring away, touch lightly, just the toe tips, then big toe mound, pinky toe mound, then heel. So you could try that a little faster. All right, enough of that. Okay, come on up. And now if you have your blanket, if you don't have a blanket, this is still work. I really like, we're going to do a supported shoulder stand. And because our feet as foundation, it doesn't just happen when we're standing. I mean, we typically think of a standing sequence mostly for thinking about foundation of the feet, but also our feet are really important when they're upside down, when we're in inversions. And being multidimensional beings, we don't just ground to the earth, we ground to the heavens, okay? So shoulder stand, I really like having a blanket, at least one blanket. If you don't have one, you can play with it and see how it feels. But I think it's quite supportive to have one or two blankets. So I have the blanket set up, and you might have to wiggle around here and see where it's going to go. But basically, my shoulders are going to be on the edge of the blanket and my head on the mat. So there's a little bit of a space created, okay? So I'll come into the wall. And I can see that I need to move my blanket a little further away. So again, you might have to play with this a little bit, or I'll have such different configurations in our body. So I just want I want my head off the blanket setup, and I want my shoulders on the blanket setup. And then I can bring my feet to the wall and start to press up, bringing my hands underneath my low back, right at my low back, like I'm in a shoulder stand, but I'm just being supported by the wall. Now feel, and if you need a little more space, back out, reset your prop. I'm going to reset mine slightly. Again, shoulders are on the blanket and head is off. And then my feet come into the wall, and I really want to be aware of what my feet are doing here. So as I press and lift, I can bring my shoulders underneath. Now, if this causes you any pain in your neck, you're going to go back to something we previously did, and you're going to skip this. But now I'm going to keep my feet pressing into the wall. My feet are bright, and I've got my hands on my low back. Palms are facing, fingertips are facing up towards my low back. And then I might try one foot extending one foot and extending the other foot. Now, bright feet here. And I'm going to pull my toes back towards my shins. So I'm in a supported shoulder stand. If this feels okay, you could try bringing one foot up and then look at your foot, toes back towards shins, and a nice even standing foot. As you press up through that foot, and you could take that leg back to the wall and try the other one. Toes back towards shins, nice bright foot. And if you wanted to try both legs up, you could do that too. But my feet are active here. Feet are active. I'm reaching my feet. I'm rooting my feet upward into a different part of the earth, right? Good. And then to come out, I'm going to bring my feet back to the wall and lower myself down nice and slow, rolling down one vertebra at a time. Great. We're going to stay against the wall. If the blanket's in your way, you could scoot it out of the way. You'll have to scoot your hips back a bit. So if it's uncomfortable in any way, just move it away. So now I think I'm about 2 feet away from the wall. I'm actually going to fold up my blanket and scoot it out of the way. Just slide it out of the way. Good. And now come to bring your right foot to the wall, up a little bit. Your lower leg is a little bit higher than parallel, and bring your left ankle to your right knee. Bring your toes back towards your shins, so brighten your foot. Feel the lift in the inner arch. And then just walk your right foot down the wall slightly so you start to feel an opening in the outer left hip. So this is just a figure 4, but we're just using the wall to facilitate it. And you might find that you can bring your right foot down fairly far, or you could even scoot into the wall and do the same process, but a little closer to the wall. But keep the foot that's in the air, keep that bright and turned on. And the foot that's into the wall, keep that bright by pressing slightly into the wall. And then release, take your left foot to the wall, cross your right ankle over, and slide the left foot down. Keep both feet bright, so you're pressing your left foot into the wall. You're drawing toes back towards shins on the right foot, and you've got this lift in your arch. Good. Now release that, and let's just roll to one side. Slowly press up, and then set your mat back up so that you can do a little bit of the same vinyasa we did before. So set your mat back up. We just want to see if get a little comparison. So let's begin by turning toes under. We won't set up with the strap. Bringing our hips to our heels for a couple breaths. Then releasing forward to all fours, taking the knees a little wider, pressing up, downward facing dog. Reach your heels towards the floor. Come up onto your toes, reach forward in Dandasana, high Dandasana, and press through your heels. Press back through your heels. Drop your knees, chest, chin. Come into Cobra. And then back into downward facing dog. Inhale, walk your feet up to your hands in a halfway lift. And exhale, fold. Press your feet into the floor and lift your arches up as you sweep your arms up. And exhale, come right back down into a fold. Hands to the floor, step your left foot back. This time, turn the left foot out slightly so that you can come up into warrior one. So back foot, back edge of the foot, back outer heel, pressing into the floor. Inhale, the fingertips up towards the ceiling. Exhale, come down around the front foot, step back, downward facing dog. Lift your heels, drop your heels towards the floor. Inhale, high Dandasana. Press through your heels. Pull your hands isometrically back towards your hips. And then lower, knees, chest, chin, or full chaturanga. Cobra. And downward facing dog. Inhale, slowly walk. Look at your feet. What are your feet doing? How are they connecting to the floor? Halfway lift. And exhale, fold. As you press into your feet, lift your inner arches and sweep your arms up. And exhale, fold right back down. Step the right foot back. And inhale, warrior one. Feel an even connection between both feet and both legs to the earth. Inhale, fingertips up. Exhale, hands down around the front foot. Step back, downward facing dog. Inhale, come forward, high Dandasana. And exhale, knees, chest, chin, or chaturanga. Inhale to Cobra. And exhale, this time just come back. Knees together, ankles together, come back to the child's pose. Now here, let your back just spread like melting butter. Let everything spread. You can take your forehead to the floor. Feel the tops of your feet connected to earth. And from here, you could slide out onto your belly. Right down onto the belly, taking Shavasana in this, on the ventral, on the belly. Or you could roll over here for a more traditional Shavasana on your back. If you come to this more traditional Shavasana, let your feet just come to Tadasana feet just for a moment and then let them go. Just let them go, let them fall out to the side. And let everything soften. In this Shavasana, can you be aware of the ease in your body, the good space? It's sometimes also translated sukha as good space. Even when we just have a minute or 2 or 3 for this final resting posture, so good for our balance, letting us come back to the parasympathetic nervous system. We don't want to trap speed in our body. And you can just stay where you are. Stay in your Shavasana as long as you'd like. If you'd like to join me in a seat, take your time moving to one side. And as you come back to your seat, if you come back to your seat, just find that easy seat again and brighten up your feet. See if that gives you a little more lift through your spine. Feet are connected to the pelvic floor, so you brighten up your feet, brighten up your pelvic floor. Soft gaze or eyes closed. You can bring your hands slowly together so that the fingertips touch. May the merit of our practice encourage all beings to unveil the hidden brilliance that lies within. Namaste.